Hello and welcome to the Chris Spiegl podcast, a new episode today with a topic around other consciousness, self-consciousness, why I am shy, what I realized recently, and that there are a lot of humans on pretty much any level out there. This is going to be just in line with the episodes that I've done recently. And if you followed along for a while, you might know that I am trying to figure out my way in life for the most part. And in the past, I have had a lot of ideas about podcast episodes, about video ideas, about series that I thought about creating in the regards of making a handful of videos about a certain topic or something. But oftentimes I found myself wanting to wait until later to see whether or not that particular thing actually happened. So in a way, I was perfectionistic to want to have something to show first. However, that kind of limits my ability to share the process because, of course, I am usually not sharing about something that doesn't work out. And I don't think that that's very honest. I don't think that that's very good for a community of creators. And I personally really enjoy when others share the process, the ups and downs, and not just the successes. And I think I've been doing a pretty good job already, just sharing what is going on and how things are moving forward or how I am going through things. But a few days ago, or the last couple of days, I realized that I want to shift a couple of things around here and also shift a couple of things around everything that I do. So in today's episode, I want to kind of like go over what I've been realizing, what I've been finding. I want to share the process. I want to share what I am thinking about and what I want to be doing in the future, and then see where this leads, because I think that there are some learnings inside of pretty much anything that is happening, pretty much anything that any of us is exploring. And I think that it's incredibly valuable to share that and to learn from others and to see how things may shift over time, because some things that I said last week are no longer true. Some things that I may say today may not be true tomorrow. So it's a constantly changing process, but it's something that you don't know about unless I share it. And so, yeah, I want to jump into that and share a couple thoughts that I have jotted down in bullet points and explore those a little more. It all started with the recent change from my YouTube channel to grow over 1,000 subscribers. And I mentioned this before, it's an incredible chapter. It's an incredible step into the more interesting direction with YouTube, because it gives this reality to it that there is actually money to be earned. And this can actually be something that I work toward to do more actively, to put a bigger priority on it. And with that, also prioritize it over other things I may have done in the past, or that I may have focused on. Now, it's been 9 days, or it's 11 days since I've been monetized, but YouTube only gives me the information from the 2 days past. So it's been 9 days that I have data about, from the 1st of March until the 9th of March. And my YouTube channel earned $14.60 in that time frame. The other thing that is about my YouTube channel is that it's also been growing quite steadily every day, much more than I have been used to. And so these two aspects shifting got me thinking about a lot of things. And one of those aspects is that I started exploring the idea what this means for my business and how I can work with this in the future. And this is something that is completely not finished thinking and talking about with the people that are affected by that, because one of the thoughts that comes up with gaining monetization, and monetization not in the means that are life-sustaining for myself, but in the means that, yes, there is money coming in, there is money to be earned by making interesting and valuable content for this community, for these people that are following me, for you who are watching these videos. And at the same time, I need a certain threshold to be able to pay for my expenses, pay for this studio, pay for my insurance, and those kind of things. So then it comes to the issue or trouble of what can I do to move forward with more steam? What can I do to feel more energized, to step into this with more force, with more power? And do I have the ability to do that with less client work and maybe focus more on making these videos, making them higher quality, making them more often, and also making the Skillshare classes and those kind of things? And that's not easy, especially, and I think that that's very true for many people, and especially with people that are jumping into their own business kind of ventures and doing things like YouTube and other freelance kind of jobs, careers. This is especially not easy when you have a certain amount of money, but you can't sustain yourself for the next year. And there are a lot of ideas going through my mind in those moments. One of the thoughts is, why don't I just keep doing my client work? That is something that is really paying my bills right now, and I can continue doing that and build this YouTube channel and my online persona at the same time. However, at the same time, then comes the thing that if I were to be able to do what I am passionate about and what I feel my draw toward, then I could actually end up making better content, making better videos, focusing my energy on the thing that I enjoy doing. So that sparked my conversation with different parties and different people around me, with my clients, and kind of like talking about what can happen there. Because one of the interesting steps that happened was that I actually started exploring what it would mean if I don't have as many hours of client work, if I don't earn as much money there, and or to see how I can focus my energy there. And one of the interesting aspects that happened was that I felt like in some regards, with certain work aspects, I was taking on projects not necessarily because I thought that I could do them well. I do believe in certain areas that I can do them really well, and I can help the person that I'm creating those things for, but it's not necessarily something that I want to be doing forever, and it's not necessarily something that I want to do, it's not necessarily something where I think that I am the only person that can do those things. And exploring that and being honest with myself, I noticed that maybe I have to take up conversations with people and say, hey, this has been great, and I enjoyed the work for the time that it was good for what I was doing and what I needed. However, I do think that now we can move something away. And I was incredibly fearful of that, because it meant that I would have less time, less hours in the day that I would write down as client work by moving that away, by moving those things to other people. And now opening that door to reduce those client hours, it now opens the door for me to say yes to my own work more and say I value my video creation and I see more value in it because I have this kind of proof of concept that there is money coming in, that there is money to be earned. And so this is one step that has been explored and moving, and it is right now just in this interim state where I will talk to my client in the next few days, and we will see how we can continue, what will continue, what we will move toward other people. Maybe things are going to end in certain areas completely. Some tasks might not be needed to be done at all. And those discussions can now be had because I felt a new safety in the exploration of my own work, so to say. But this also brought up another topic, and that is, what do I want to do for my own passion? What do I want to share? Where do I want to share? What do I want to do with social media? I feel more and more drawn to Instagram, to YouTube, to creating stories, posts, podcast episodes, having guests, those kind of things. And that meant that I had to also explore, why am I holding back? Why am I not doing these things to the fullest of my own potential? And so I started journaling about that and started asking myself, why am I shy? And with that came something along the lines of, because I care what other people think of me. And then the follow-up question immediately was, why do I care what others think? And my own personal exploration gave me that I care what others think because I have an incredible fear of me saying something wrong, doing something wrong, and then being confronted with a certain kind of hate from a community that I may have built, or from people that don't even know me, don't follow my content. Maybe they only see one piece of it and misunderstand it, misconstrue it, those kind of things. And the fear inside of me is that by having that out there, by having something out there about me that is negative, by people sharing negative thoughts or comments in, or maybe even threats in the comment sections of videos, of Instagram posts, and so on, that would automatically mean that no one will ever work with me again. No one will want to watch my content. No one will ever work with me again. No one will want to connect, be friends. Maybe even my family would leave me. Like, those kind of thoughts are connected to this fear of, I care about what others think. I can't do certain things because it may be misunderstood. It may be something that is not approved of. And that even goes as small as things like creating these videos on YouTube, creating posts on social media, because there's a lot of people out there that are saying, like, why do we even need this? Why, like, this is a gigantic waste of time of everybody. And that is at least a part that I have received. And the question of, why do people vlog? Why do people watch vlogs? Like, devaluing the things that I, on one hand, want to watch myself and I like to consume, and then also the things that I actually desire to create. And now it's very easy to say, like, just don't care what other people think, just don't mind those opinions, but that becomes incredibly hard, especially if those people are very close to you. And I think that pretty much anyone who has tried anything ever, especially something new, will have come up that problem or that struggle that especially parents don't necessarily support everything that you want to do. Because most of the time it's because they don't understand what you are doing, what you are trying to do. They can't really fathom the idea of what you are working toward. And this is something that I am trying to get better at, and trying to understand more, to say, yes, you may not understand this fully, and I see that you care, that you are in a way fearful of this path, but I see others do this. I see the value in this. I understand that vlogs are entertaining and sometimes even educational and those kind of things. I see that, and it's kind of like the same change that is happening when the move was from books to radio, from radio to movies to live television, and like those kind of things. There was always holding back, and there were always critics, and at some point you have to get a thick skin and work through that, ignore those criticisms, and do it anyways. And that is something that I am still working on and still exploring, still trying to get better at and finding my own way, trusting my own way. But on that way, I have started to have also realized a couple other aspects to this that I explored and I want to share with you here. So number one was you need thick skin in some regard. And you will have, especially with being someone on social media, you will have to be able to ignore certain comments because they will inevitably come. And there's a whole host of people that are exploring this and a whole host of ideas how you can also think about these things. One of the recent ways that I have heard or read somewhere was think about the last time you went on the internet and wrote a really mean comment to someone on whatever post or something that they posted. And then ask yourself, did you ever do that? When was the last time, right? And so for me, I would say probably never. So why would I give any thought about someone who is doing that? Then the other thoughts that other people have explored are, do you really want to engage in a fight with someone who has infinite time? And that is mostly people who are commenting mean things. It's especially if they are mean. It's not like if there's a constructive side to it, it's a whole different story. But if it's just like, no, don't bother. And I am learning to understand this. I am learning that this is not easy. I'm learning that this takes courage and strength to potentially disregard certain comments on YouTube and not respond and just see the next one and try to see those other positive comments with more value. The second aspect that I thought about was there are humans on every level. And what I mean by that is that if you have an opinion, if you share an opinion, if you have a certain skill that you're showing and those kind of like pretty much anything, whatever you do, whatever you explore, express or whatever, there are humans on every place on the spectrum. And that means that you'll find people that agree with you and you will find people that disagree with you. And I will do that. I will have that experience. It becomes quite clear for myself when I look, for example, into the world of politics, whether it's in Europe or in Germany or in the US, it doesn't really matter. There are parties from left to right, center, everything. And there are people in those parties who believe that their thing is the right thing. But there are the other people as well. And that for me kind of came with an understanding of saying like, there probably is no definitive right answer for pretty much anything. It doesn't really matter what it is. You don't really have a definitive right answer, especially when it is about ethics or desire or what you count as right and wrong, what you would want to do. The same thing goes for equipment. When I talk about cameras on this YouTube channel of mine, and when I explore my opinion on that, there will be people who disagree with that, and that's okay. But there are humans on every level. There are people who agree, there are people who disagree, there are people who have opinions that are diagonal and completely different from yours. But there are also those that are within your spectrum. There are people that are exploring the same things that you are exploring. And especially important for me is that there are people who can understand. And even though they might have a different opinion, they may still be able to understand. And that's the best kind, I think. It's when you have the ability to have a disagreement and say, like, I understand that you have this thought and that is how you came to this conclusion. But at the same time, I have a different conclusion. So understanding that, I think, helped me a little more to also, with that, be able to step into the expression a little more and say, going back to the topics of before, when I was exploring, or I am still exploring, these thoughts about how can I step into a social media world where I myself sometimes have taken on the criticism that others shared around me, and I then adapted to myself. So that it's like sharing a lot on social media is stupid and it's senseless and it doesn't help anybody. And having had those thoughts myself, or having taken them on from other people, even though I personally would prefer to think differently, this thought of realizing that there are humans on every level helps me to say, yep, I'm doing me. I am going the way that I think I want to be going, and I'm feeling that it is right now. And one of those aspects is, for example, sharing more on my Insta story and ignoring that some people may find this weird. Because, again, many people on all levels, and social media wouldn't be as popular as it is if everybody would think that it's stupid. So I might have to kind of just narrow my view and say, like, yes, there are those people that I want to meet up with and connect with. And that's those that I am doing this for. And I'm not doing it for the others. The others that think that it's stupid can do their thing. Continuing on from that, I had another thought, but maybe I just need a sip of tea first. What other thing that came up was, the line that I have here for myself is being happy alone and with myself versus having others to approve. This is something that I tend to give others as a argument why I think that they can express what they are expressing. And that is that they have others that approve. So someone who is already huge on social media can then grow even bigger because they are already big. So what would that mean for me? For me, that would mean growing to numbers that are, let's say, 100,000 people. 100,000 or 50,000 people on YouTube and Instagram, for example. And having the experience, this is, for me, that feels like an important part of it, having the experience that those people react to the things that you are doing and share positive thoughts with you, ideally positive thoughts. And that may be all fun and nice. However, there's one big caveat, and I kind of reminded myself of that by thinking about Stoicism, and everything is always changing. Everything can end, decay, and die in any given moment. It can also change. So even though you may have a group of people that completely agrees with you for a certain amount of time, and you've been, I don't know, vlogging or sharing your thoughts in Insta stories, and everything is nice and dandy for a couple of weeks, months, whatever long it may be, and then you share one thing that upsets a certain group within your fan group. And even though they agreed with pretty much anything you did for the last 2 years, all of a sudden you misstepped and you have a hate group or some kind of shitstorm happening around you. And that experience, I think, can be devastating. And it kind of disproves the point of having others to approve. Because if you kind of trust, or if you rely on others to approve what you're doing, others to give you positive feedback, whatever you're doing, then you are having that externalized. You are tying your happiness and your belief in yourself to other people. And I realized that that's exactly the same issue if you just look at your subscriber numbers and you say, like, yeah, I have such and such many people around me that follow my stuff and they approve of me. And I can totally see, and I don't know what happens in the future if I end up, or when I end up reaching certain numbers and certain milestones, how that will affect me. But it's going to be a very interesting exploration because it's something that I feel like can be quite interesting to feel through. And I may even not notice for a certain amount of time what is happening with me in that regard. And then like taking those numbers and making them about me, making those numbers mean something. And even the striving toward those numbers means something already. Right now, one of the aspects is there is a connection. That is something that means something. There's also the aspect that a certain amount of people watching videos and, so to speak, approve of my videos means a certain amount of income. And if I want to sustain myself with something like YouTube, I will have to work toward a significant number of that. But then again, it ties something to something else. I'm tying the number of views, the approval of myself to my income. And I even recently heard someone talk about the fact that he's quitting YouTube full time, which means for that person that they're going to do more client work again and doing more commercials and video shoots, corporate shoots, and those kind of things, because having that dynamic of my success on YouTube, the likelihood that people are watching my videos, the amount of people that are watching my videos, dictated the topics that they were doing, and that problem came up, or that then creates the problem that you're no longer able to create whatever you want because you are creating what you feel is needed, what people want from you. And then it changes you again. So the more interesting path would be being happy alone and with myself. And especially being happy with my decisions, the work that I put in, and trying to make that a close relationship. How do I approve of myself? Can I stand behind myself with what I've done? And taking others out of the equation. And that actually is something that sparked a lot of very interesting ideas. And one of those aspects, for example, is the question of what are my values right now? And not considering everybody else and how they may or may not be judging me. Some of those thoughts, for example, could be, and this is partly inspired by myself, but also partly just out of thin air. If I am taking myself in my current situation, and I look around myself and I wonder what I can do about this world. Like, what are the subjects that I may or may not care about? And what I found for myself, for example, looking at this, is I can look at climate change. I can look at vegetarianism, veganism. I can look at my health, my body, my business, my income. What about travel and flying in airplanes and driving in cars? And there are tons of purposes or reasons to change behavior around any given of those things. But I started, or am starting, to ask myself, what do I really care about right now? What do I want to affect, change, and do? And one of the thoughts, for example, that comes up for myself is that I say, even though I'm not right now flying anywhere, I'm not traveling in the next few weeks and months probably, but I am not going to not fly because of the climate. And that is a hard decision for me to make. It's even hard to express that in any kind of capacity because social judgment is currently very high around this topic. But the question at the end of the day is, what do I value? And I feel like I can hold this judgment better by saying, or by having explored what my values are, because I agree with myself in that. because I tell myself that I have certain desires and I would like to be able to fly, and I would like to not be constrained by the idea that then destroys the climate. And I'm not saying that any of that may not be true. I'm not saying that flying is not bad. But it's a matter of my personal values that I subject myself to. And with that, stepping away from what others think and saying, can I be congruent with myself? Can I agree with what I am doing? And so far, I am still exploring what I care about, what I don't care about, and those kind of things. And not caring may be a really hard word, because I don't even consider it that, because most of the things that I have in that not care about list is more of it's not as important for me right now list. But many years ago, I don't know, maybe even almost 10 years ago, I already read in a big newspaper in Germany called Zeit, which is basically the German Times, but that's not really right. It's a completely different magazine or newspaper. Comes out every week. And a couple of years ago, they already explored that idea that we are overloaded with causes around us. And at some point, you are probably going to feel, or at least that's also my experience, and that was why I felt so connected to that article or that questionnaire, because they said you're going to be overwhelmed if you try to be everything and try to be perfect in everybody's eyes, because there are just too many things going on in this world. And maybe in the past, when we had our little village and there was nothing else, that might have been manageable with all the things that are going on within that 2,000 people circle. But now we are online and we have everybody in one really, really big pot. And you just simply can't really be everything and do everything right by everyone. Because again, humans on every fucking spectrum. There's always going to be people that are disagreeing with you. You may be the most perfect conservative, and then you have people on the left that are disagreeing with you, and then you have people on the right that think you're not extreme enough. Then you have people on the left that are saying like this is completely wrong. If you try to if you say you don't fly, you have people, however scientifically proven whatever it may be, you'll have people that disagree with whatever you do. And at the end of the day, I personally have often questioned myself to say like what actually is the true right answer. And for many things, however sure we may think we are, we may be completely wrong. A little bit of an aspect of a side tangent on this is that it also came with this thought of we are, at the end of the day, a speck of dust in the huge grand scheme of everything with this planet and with our lives. And asking myself or exploring that, it's like, it doesn't really matter. Like, it doesn't really matter what we do in the grand scheme of things. If we think like galaxy scale, universe scale, those kind of things, it doesn't really matter what we do. Our planet doesn't fucking matter. Our selves on this planet, we don't even matter. We matter because of us. We matter because we attach a value to ourselves. And we matter because, or that matters because we attach values to everything around us and the people around us. And if we decide that humans are pretty great and we would like that there are going to be more humans in the future, then we might want to make certain decisions in a certain way. But it's a question of values again. It's a question of what do we value in any given moment and what do we want to strive toward and those kind of things. And realigning that for myself is a process, and maybe that is something that you can start for yourself and ask yourself also, like, what do I care about right now? With that thinking that you can't possibly care about everything. What do you care about? Choose your top 5, let's say, and maybe the rest can go into the category of don't care about right now or care less about right now. And it's more of a second thought of like, okay, if you, for example, like for me, if I decide to fly, maybe I choose to compensate that. But it's my personal first priority with the flying example would be that I would choose to do the travel because that feels important for me and I have certain values attached to that and I want to be doing that. Okay, so one of the last things is on my list, and that is I am enough by myself. And this is derived from point number 4, being happy alone and with myself versus being having approval from others. I am enough by myself. Can I really say that? Can I feel that? Can I really understand that and take that as a full statement, or do I question that? And with the exploration of the different aspects that I've mentioned in this podcast, I feel that it's important to try to get to that core. And it is somewhat of a stoic thing to consider because this comes with many aspects. One of which being others may not approve of what you're doing. Are you enough still in yourself with yourself? Are you okay if you are completely alone? Are you okay by just doing your way no matter what? And I find that one of the hardest things to really imagine what would be if everything around me would end. Kind of like a idea of what would happen if I were the last human on Earth. There's this interesting thought to ask yourself is like, would I do this if there would be no one else to see it? Would I do this if nobody else cared but me? And I do think that for the most part, many things we do every single day are we are doing those things because we do them for other people, or we do them out of other motivations. We want approval, we want money, we want closeness, we want food, we want things, and many things we do because of those things. So what are you what am I doing? What would I do if I were to be just myself at the end of the world, so to say? And I do think that getting closer to that, it's a process. It's not something that I am perfect at right now, but trying to be there, get there, trying to say to myself, yep, I'm doing this, and doesn't really matter whether or not anyone cares or approves. Trying to get there. Just that. Now that was quite the exploration that I had there. And I'm not sure how valuable or interesting this is for you. And if you're still listening, I would love to connect with you about this. If you want to share something about it, you can always reach me on Instagram or Telegram. And you can find those things on my website when you go to chrisspiegl.com, which is also linked in the show notes and description, as always. But I want to share one more thing about this, and that has something to do with the fact that recently my YouTube channel crossed the 1,000 subscriber mark, and Instagram actually still has 16,000 people following this account that I created a couple years ago. Because one of the big things that came within that exploration of what do I want to be doing, how do I want to move forward, for the first time, it feels like ever, I felt like a realization hit me about that following about those people that are on those accounts, on those, like what that number means. 1,000 people on YouTube, 1,067 people on YouTube, and 16,000 people on Instagram. It's hard to imagine that that's real. And right now for me, it is pretty hard, because also I don't necessarily see an engagement rate that I would attribute to those numbers. And maybe that's even the reason why I don't feel that it's real, because I see others who have bigger followings, or sometimes even smaller followings, with another kind of engagement rate, and they get more comments than I do, and they get more views than I do, and those things. But it hit me to say a certain percentage of those people are real. A certain percentage of you are real. And whether or not I see replies, I see views, I see some comments, and I see likes on my posts, pictures, and so on. So what does that mean for me? And what it meant for me in that moment when I realized it was I should change the way that I interact. And I should imagine those people that care. I should imagine a real group of people that I talk to. And it feels like I have been distant over the past. I have treated those profiles very professionally, trying to be oh so professional. But at the end of the day now, I realized there are real people around this. There are real people who watch my videos, follow my accounts, like my pictures, read the captions, and I'm doing that for those people. It kind of touches into the whole thing as well. Like, who do you do these things for? And I do it for me, and I do it for the people that care. Those people that don't or disagree, if they dislike me, maybe they should unfollow. Maybe they shouldn't consume what I do. That's okay. I am not necessarily concerned with keeping everybody around just for the sake of keeping them around. Makes no sense whatsoever. But focused on creating content for those that do care. And with that, I want to thank you for caring and being here and watching or listening to this. I'd love to hear from you and connect. Those options are very much open, especially because it's not that much in general, right now at least. Yeah. I'm very curious to see how my own way and how my changes will affect how everything is going to move forward, because as a creator, and I do believe that maybe you are also in a similar position with everything, the step from start to something feels like one of the hardest. And I'm not sure, maybe it is just the same if you're bigger. And once you have 50,000 people following you, there's a certain expectation around the things that you do and those kind of thoughts. I don't know that yet. I have no experience with that. So for now, I have to see what I experience. And in that moment, these are my thoughts, my explorations. And as I've mentioned, I would love to hear from you what your thoughts are, what your explorations are, how you deal with things, what your desires are, what your values are, if you want to share any of those. And then we can see how we may be able to support each other even. So, yeah, I'm now going to write more videos, produce more content, and probably go onto Insta Story for a while to create something there as well, and to continue connecting with whoever is out there. So, have a good day. And thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Thank you for being here. It's a really interesting and fun journey. And I will see you or be in your ear with the next episode, with the next works of my creation soon. Ciao, ciao.